Welcome back to Velshi on MSNBC. I'm Charles Coleman Jr., sitting in for my friend Allie today. Now, for months, Republicans in Congress have been holding up a much-needed aid package for Ukraine, and they're demanding that the deal be tied to border security. Republicans were holding their ground, and it actually appeared to be working. Democrats in Congress and the White House started making concessions on immigration in order to make progress on the bill. And on Friday, President Biden even said he would, quote, shut down the border when it becomes overwhelmed. Now, that's the day he signs the bipartisan bill. But now, suddenly, some Republicans don't want the border bill that they've been pushing so hard for. The fate of the deal is now in doubt because Donald Trump expressed opposition to it. Of course, Trump wants to tank a border deal because gridlock on immigration allows him to ramp up his racist and xenophobic attacks. It works directly with his own campaign style. Yesterday, Trump posted on Truth Social saying, in part, quote, it is the worst border deal in the history of the world. The world, y'all. An open wound in our once great country. Terrorists are pouring in unchecked from all over the world. Let me say this again. The world, y'all. There is now a 100% chance that there will be major terror attacks in the U.S. Close the border, end quote. Joining me now to unpack all of this are two of my favorites, Dean Obeidallah, who is the host of the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM and an MSNBC daily columnist and one of my favorite social media follows. And joining him is also Molly John Fast. She is a special correspondent for Vanity Fair and the host of the Fast Politics podcast, and she tweets sometimes. Molly, so let's just be very straightforward about this. Donald Trump would rather have, there's a saying that sometimes there's more benefit and expediency in managing a problem than there is in solving it. Donald Trump seems to be much more content to have this problem exist than to actually do something about it. Is that fair?
Yeah. I don't think Donald Trump wants to manage this problem or solve this problem. Now, I want to point out the reason we're talking about this is because this is the only thing Trump has to run on, right? The economy's getting much better. The labor market continues to be tight. Inflation is down. America's a net exporter of natural gas. There is a reason why we are here. So I think it's important just to take a minute to think about that, because this is not, yes, the numbers are up, but this is a crisis that is very much manufactured by the right to get us to talk about it. So that's what I would say. That said, the White House has taken it really seriously. And you'll remember Chris Murphy, Kirsten Sinema, James Lankford have been for 3.5 months sitting in a room. I talked to Chris Murphy about this, just trying desperately to solve, right? And they have an agreement. Is it amazing? No. But have we had any legislation on this topic in years? No. And so now they come, and here's the problem. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, serves at the pleasure, not of the president, right, because the president is Biden, but of candidate Donald J. Trump. He got that job because of his involvement in the 2020 election and trying to overturn it. So, of course, that's where we are.
Dean, Molly makes a great point in that from a substantive issue place, Donald Trump has very little to run on. But I got to ask you, what happened to the culture wars? That was where things started, and it seemed like there was this push about CRT and banned books and, drag shows and all sorts of conversation, pronouns and everything else. Have we seen, in terms of substantive issues, this put to bed?
I think Republicans are going to run on whatever they think helps them to win, right? So Molly's right. They would love to run on the economy. If you listen to Trump and Nikki Haley, it's the Great Depression out there. There's food lines and people can't survive anymore. Actually, the unemployment 2 years in a row under 4%. It's a record since the time of the Vietnam War. So you have the economy churning along. Inflation comes down, stock market hitting new records. They can't talk about it. So you have immigration. That's the big issue. If they thought banning books was going to help them win, talking CRT, help them win, they pivot right back to that. Those are not winners for them. They've seen that in 2022. It didn't work out in the midterm the way they wanted. And I think it's so important that President Biden proposed $14 billion in aid for the border. We're talking about thousands of Border Patrol agents. Thousands would be hired. And Trump says no, and his minions say no. So Trump says there'll be a terrorist attack. It's up to Democrats to say, if there's a terrorist attack on U.S. soil, between now and Election Day, it's because the Republicans refuse to agree to President Biden's plan to secure our border. It's that simple. But they'll go back to other issues. I think reproductive freedom, though, they don't want to talk about that.
Right.
That's the big issue.
That's a loser for them.
And so winner, who people like freedom, it's a winner. Right. You know, if you like theocracy, not so good.
I think it's a very interesting issue because what I've seen is Donald Trump and the right, their racism and their xenophobia hasn't gone away. It's just morphed into this very nuanced policy issue that they're masking in a thinly veiled conversation about the border. I'm glad I have you two here because there's something else I want to talk about that I think both of you would be great to speak on. Part of what has secured Donald Trump the wins in New Hampshire and Iowa is this notion of the element of the strong man. Right? Mm-hmm. For whatever you think of it. But what I find so interesting is when you see the strong man, there are these lapdogs of other men who are around him and they sort of just look adoringly at him and bow at his feet. So I don't know, are they part of, we're talking about Tim Scott. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Ron DeSantis. We're talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. We're talking about a number of people who have now apparently, they subscribe to the strongman culture, but then they sort of like wilt in front of him like schoolgirls. So does this, where does that reconcile, or is it just all a farce?
Well, look, Trump ran on the reason that he won in 2016. I mean, you could say there were numbers, and remember, he didn't win the popular vote. He just won the Electoral College. But the reason he won was because he grabbed hold of economic populism. And he did it in this very authoritarian way. And then he abandoned the economic populism and just got involved with the authoritarianism, which, again, he has not won on as he's been running on it. So I think it is interesting. The way that this plays, I don't know. I don't think the American people like autocracy. And we've seen this again and again in elections. But I don't know that Trump is able. I don't think Trump has other choices in ways to be, if that makes any sense.
Dean, so this morning we had House Republicans and they revealed 2 articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas for his supposed dereliction of duty regarding the border. Have they forgotten that Secretary Mayorkas does not make the rules or the law in relation to the border?
It's a game. It's a show. It's auditions for Newsmax and Fox News. It's the kind of stuff they go, you see what we're doing? We're going to impeach, Hunter Biden. It's like he doesn't have a whole office. Just impeach anyone they can. They can impeach Joe Biden. They don't have the evidence. They know that. So this situation where it's red meat, play the game, that's all that matters. And I love this fact that they're all auditioning to be vice president. It is the suck-up Olympics. These people are pathetic. And it's all about, I know who Trump's going to pick, whoever's most loyal to him. That's it. It's that simple. So they can suck up all they want. It's about loyalty.
Molly, let's talk about what Donald Trump is really positioning his party to do. He's asking them essentially to leave on the table an additional 1,300 border enforcement agents, 1,600 more asylum officers, expanded detention facilities, and added technology at points of entry. This is really putting his party in an untenable position. Yeah. I talked earlier about the pressure that Donald Trump creates on down ballot Republican candidates that are in moderate districts. It seems like he doesn't care. How does this reconcile with like the RNC chair, who has an ability, has a responsibility to get folks elected, and you got a guy leading your party who's putting this type of pressure on you, which you can't do very much about?
He really doesn't care. I think it's fair to say he does not care about down-ballot races. And we've seen this. He can't deliver on down-ballot candidates. Now, we have a Senate map that should be very favorable for Republicans. But a lot of, the base loves these MAGA candidates. And these MAGA candidates we've seen again and again, 23, 22, 2020, even 2018. These MAGA candidates do not scale. They cannot win. And we saw this again, Carrie Lake is going to run for Senate in Arizona. Yeah. I mean, I thought she was already governor. And so, it's not I think that this is very tough. And look, he fights with Mitch McConnell, right? So it's all unforced errors.
The guy's out on bail, okay? I mean, come on. He's out on bail and he's running the GOP. What are we living through in 2024? It's insane. He's literally out on bail. I'm not exaggerating.
I know. I'm the lawyer. I know. Molly Jung-Fast and Dean Obeidallah, the dynamic duo, letting me play the third wheel. Thank you both.
6. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark. So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
This was just a diversion. Security teams bring up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds. Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We are facing a heavy, sustained attack. They appear to be after the All-Star. General! Need to evac immediately. Evac. Hold on. National security advisor. Stay down. Check it out. Their mission is outrageous. The amateurs are suicide mission.